Hi everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the final Q&A webinar for 2024 Fulbright Irish Awards scholars and students. And remember, literally in 24 hours, this will be the deadline in 24 hours. So I have been monitoring the in progress and the submitted, and it's moving at a fairly rapid pace. So keep up the good work, everybody who's applying. We will start taking questions. If you could just mention the scholar question or a student question, and then I'll answer the scholar question, and Paula will answer the student question. So we are now open for business.
Hi, Corja. I'm Paula Melvin, the Senior Awards Manager with Commission. As Anthony said, I'll be answering the student questions and also the FLTAs. So anyone who's applying to teach Irish in the United States under the FLTA program can also submit their questions there in the chat box. As Anthony said, 4 p.m. tomorrow is obviously the deadline. If you're applying for a sponsored award like a Teagasc Scholar or a Teagasc Student or an EPA award or a Creative Ireland award, they're sponsored awards. Make sure you complete a sponsored award form. You can find the sponsored award forms inside the portal where you're submitting your application. Please note your references have the same deadline as you. So the deadline for the references is also 4 p.m. tomorrow. And if you have any queries that you think of after this Q&A has finished, please email Anthony if it pertains to scholars, and please email me if it pertains to FLTAs or students. We don't have any questions yet, though. And if you're thinking of applying for a sponsored award, make sure you do. There's a student question that's just been popped in the chat. Can I send reminders to references after submitting the application and track if they've submitted? Yes. After you have submitted your application, you can still go back and just check. Please do send reminders to anyone who is writing a reference for you. The previous experience abroad section of the online application form is not showing up in the PDF form preview. Is that normal? It should be coming up. You should be able to see all those documents that you've submitted as additional documents. If you can't, you're a student, please just email them to me as an attachment just in case they're not there.
There's a question there from a scholar regarding when do we commence if we're offered the award. The commencement would be related to when your host institution wants to host you and when the grants are given out. It could be any time from, I think, March 2023 till, or does it start in August? Do you remember?
In August. So in March next year, we'll be telling people who've been successful. And then the earliest they can start their awards is August 2023, purely because Anthony and I need time to process those visas to get you the appointment in the US Embassy. We also do some orientations in June that you have to attend cultural events in Dublin Castle or in the ambassador's residence. So you'd be missing out on a lot if you were to leave before then.
So this year, for example, a lot of the scholars left at the end of August, beginning of September, October, November, and we have some going in January. So it's really a matter of what you've agreed with your host institution. But the earliest, as Paula said, you can leave is August.
If you registered for a sponsored award, are you automatically considered for other awards? And that's a student question. So say, for example, you applied for the Student Teagasc Award and you were deemed unsuccessful for that sponsored award, you'll then be considered for the all disciplines. Same with a scholar. Say you applied for a scholar GSI award and you're deemed unsuccessful for the GSI sponsored scholar award, you then be considered for the scholar all disciplines. So if you can apply for a sponsored award, it's in your best interest.
There's a few more student ones there. I just want to get to one scholar one. Is the letter of affiliation to US institution a big factor in the evaluation of apps? The letter of affiliation is when you've been chosen. The letter of invitation is when you are applying. So the letter of affiliation is written after you've been awarded the Fulbright.
You can use whatever system you want to convert your scores to your American GPA. My university does not provide a GPA or offer a conversion to GPA. Where you're asked to insert GPA in the application form, can I just provide my final grade, or should I say first class honors, or whatever way you want to convert it is fine, and that's fine. And it doesn't matter who you use to convert them at all. And sure, we'll have your transcripts anyway, because as a student, you must provide transcripts. Scholars do not need to provide transcripts. The application form asks for the name of my degree, but LLB is not listed as an option drop-down list. Look, you can just click other, and you should be able to choose the most appropriate one, or click other and then type it. But we'll have your transcripts anyway in your application. And just for UCD students, please do not, as per the guidelines, please do not submit original UCD transcripts, as the application form cannot actually read UCD transcripts. So please submit copies of your final marks.
There's one there about the how much detail is required in the research project. Use up as much space as available. But
Sorry, Anthony, I couldn't hear you there, just to let you know. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry.
The question is how much detail is required in the research project. The amount of pages required is about 5, but we try to ask people to make it as succinct as possible, as concise as possible, because the reviewers want to get through this without too much jargon. So use your wisdom on that one. There's another one here, a real quick one. Referees. I'm still waiting on one of my referees. If I don't hear anything from them soon, it's gone away again.
The rest of that question.
Them with another. Yes, you can. The answer to that question is yes, you can, as long as it's done before 4 p.m. tomorrow. I think if you're looking for references and recommendations, it's good to have a plan B. You might have 2 ready and 1 not ready. So it's always good to have a few people ready to write the reference letter for you.
Student question: I've not yet received a final grade for my master's degree. Can I upload a provisional transcript of my semester 1 and 2 results without a degree parchment? Yes, that is fine. And can I use my average grade to date as the GPA? Yes, that is absolutely fine. That is fine. Use your best judgment, as Anthony alluded to earlier. Are you better than to apply for a sponsored award rather than a general award? Could I apply for a public health award or a general award? If you're at all possible, if you're able to apply for a sponsored award, please do. It is in your best interest. You know your research better than we do. So if you think it fits it could be a GSI fit or maybe a Chagas fit or whatever, you're the best person to determine which one. You cannot apply for more than 1 sponsored awards in 1 year, but you can apply for sponsored award, and then you can be considered for all discipline.
There's a question there for, again, the follow-up question regarding the letter of invitation. Where can they put that in the additional information section, or where does that have to be put in?
It's absolutely
additional.
Fine. Yeah, they can put it in additional. That's fine.
As long as all the documents are on the portal. Obviously, if they're in a little bit of a different spot, that's okay, as long as they're there. So just make sure they're uploaded. That's the most important.
I'm also a UCD student. Do we upload our most recent results or transcript as PDF rather than our full transcripts that we have downloaded? So long as it's not an original document. So if it's a photocopy or if you saved it as a different way, that is fine. Please just don't submit the original one. Don't just download it and submit it, because you won't be able to submit it properly. So whatever form of a copy of a UCD transcript would be great for us.
There's a question there, Paula. If you don't have the letter of invitation yet, but met a potential organization and they've agreed to, but haven't written the letter, can I proceed?
Yes, you can. At the time of application, it's fine not to have a letter of acceptance just yet, especially in terms of LLM students. It has happened several times in the past. We've made an offer to someone, say in March, letting them know they've been awarded a Fulbright, but they haven't actually known for a few weeks which institution the states have been accepted to, because unfortunately a lot of the deadlines don't add up. For the most part, those students who are doing part of their masters or scholars should be able to get a letter of affiliation by the deadline, but it's fine if you don't. But we would hope to have as many letters of acceptance as possible by the time of the interviews.
And is that the same for scholars?
Yes, but like, sure, it should be easier for like a scholar to receive a letter of acceptance, because they're just going to do a short period of research, whereas a lot of the masters will have strict deadlines when people need to submit by. I'm a student applicant. Do references need to be ready for submission tomorrow? Yes, your referees have the same deadline as you for FLTA student scholars.
There's a question here, a general question, which is applicable to students and scholars. I know there are page limits for some docs, but are there any font size formatting requirements for written documents? No, just make sure you fit in everything. I'm noticing that most of the submitted applications have a similar font. I think it's 12 New Roman. So I think that seems to be the one that everybody's using, and that's very concise and fits in everything you need. So I wouldn't worry about the font as much as getting the information in there.
Who reads and reviews your application? So the first people to read your application will be Anthony and myself. So if you're a scholar, Anthony will be checking your application for eligibility and to see that it's completed. I'll be doing the same for the FLTAs and students. Then say, for example, if you're in physics, 3 experts in physics will read your application. If you're coming from NUIG, we won't have anyone from NUIG from your department reading your application. We'll try and get people from other institutions in Ireland and experts abroad to review your application who are experts in your field, but who don't know you. And then after that stage, if you are successful at the interview stage, then the interviewers will be reading your application. But odds are they will not be experts in your field because there'll be 3 interviewers who may be in 3 very different fields to yourself.
There's a question there. Must the Fulbright personal statement be concise, like 1 or 2 pages? It's all about telling a really good story about yourself. So if it's 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, on average, I'm looking at 3 to 4 pages for the personal statement. And the more compelling the personal statement is, the better chance you have. You might be a wonderful academic, but you're going to be interviewed in person or on Zoom, and how your personality shines through and your character is going to have a huge impact, because we've already looked at your academic track record. So it's about telling a story. What do you do outside the academic sphere? Are you a leader? Are you a volunteer? Have you climbed the Himalayas? Have you given food to homeless people on a Connell Street? These are things that are interesting to us and to the reviewers. So a lot of people need to spend a lot of time on their personal statement because they don't know what to put in. It's all about what you're doing outside the academic sphere, not within the academic sphere. What do you do? What are your hobbies? What are you passionate about? Very important.
Is a writing sample required for doctoral student applicants? No, it's not. The writing sample is only required if you're doing creative writing. A student award for study research application. Can I name an academic tutor I'll be engaging with without having a letter from them? Yes, you can. And should I bolster my application through multiple associated academics tutor, or a single one enough? A single one's enough. Sometimes students and scholars, but rarely enough, they go to more than one academic institution to undertake their Fulbright Award, or they may work with 2 people, and that's fine. But the main thing is that you have a strong rationale that justifies everything in your application, be it who you're going to work with in the States, where you're going, your need to be in the US, everything should make sense, and you should kind of prove that.
There was a question there, Paul, about the Creative Ireland professional fellowship. I need a letter of support, leave from my home institution. I'm not employed by them. They're just my studio gallery. And the hard copies of portfolio items. The deadline is 4 p.m. tomorrow. They have to send them to our offices on 85 Marion Square, correct?
Yes, and that person does not need a letter of support or leave from your home institution. That you don't need a letter of leave, and no matter who you are, even if say you're employed full-time by UCC, UCC don't need to write a letter to say that you're free to go. There's one from an FLTA applicant. What are appropriate non-academic activities for the application? Or what should the mindset be when deciding what activities to include in the application? As Anthony kind of mentioned before, it is about, do you feed the homeless? Do you go mountaineering? What else do you do outside the lab or the classroom? So as an FLTA, say you're placed in Montana, you're teaching Irish there for a year. We don't want you to just teach Irish there. Are you going to set up a branch of Conor Novelga? Will you set up a branch of GA or Cultus Culture Erin? What are you going to do outside the classroom? And the same for, say, a scientist. We don't want someone to disappear into a lab and not engage with kind of the greater good. So look, do you play sports? Will you bring sports with you to the States? Are you interested in Black Lives Matter or some kind of civic engagement issue? And that's really up to you, but think outside the box. Just don't think about purely the Irish language and what you're doing in the States, because it's also about that greater cultural piece. So have to think about that, but you're actually the best person to answer that, not me.
If you're not sure that what the institution in the US you've contacted will agree, do you put other choices in and where? Do they put that into supplementary information section?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, if anyone's having any difficulty uploading something, they can always put it into the supplemental application. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much where, in what order the application is, so long as everything is there. Oh, student question. 4 different recommenders have uploaded references for me. Can I submit all 4, or should I withdraw one before submitting? Please withdraw one, because we want everything to be as fair on everyone. So it's the same rule for all student scholars and FLTs. You're supposed to have 3 recommenders, so you don't need a 4th.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, 3 is all we need. So if you get 5, there's no point in uploading 5. 3 is what we need. It's not a question of us looking at 5 of them and picking the best 3. You get 3, everybody gets 3, and that's how it's fair for everybody across the board. 3 recommendations only, please.
If you don't have a letter of affiliation and want to do a master's in the USA, should you put down just one institution, even if you're applying to be accepted to 2 or 3? Please list in your order of preferences all the institutions you're applying for in the States. The last time I checked, I think it was you could apply to up to 5 according to the application, but please do list them. And please mention where you want to go and why, because you need a strong rationale. And we are aware that the online portal that you're applying through Slate asks you not to mention specific institutions in the US. The reason we send you Irish specific guidelines is because it's a generic application form to all countries in which Fulbright's run. So where the guidelines Anthony and I furnished you with differ to the online application, please follow those guidelines.
Yes, and just to reiterate what Paula said, what we've written in the guidelines is the Bible for the applicants. That's what we're going by, and that's what everybody needs to follow. Guidelines are very, very important. Please go by them.
Under supplemental forms, it said we must print out, sign, and submit a signature form. What is this? You can simply sign the application by typing your name on it. If you have difficulty doing so, it's by far the least important part of the application. Like, it's fine if you can't. If you have issues with that, technical issues with that, please ignore. It's really the essays that are by far the most important part. We need the essays, we need the recommenders in on time. Student, is there a page limit for personal statement and research proposal? We say 2 pages each. We're not super strict on it. We do want to be as concise as possible, but if you go over 2 pages, it's fine. We're not that strict on it. Student question.
I can answer that if you want, Paula, because I know you're probably inundated there. What do you do outside academia? That's a big, big question. A lot of people, they don't do anything outside their work, and that's not a very holistic way of dealing with life. What do you do outside the classroom? Do you engage with the students in extracurricular activities? Chess. Do you play chess? Do you go cycling? Sports. What sports do you play? These are all very important in the personal statement. So, how much information do you need to include in the personal statement? As much as you want. You don't want to give away too much information about yourself, but another question is a clear sense and/or demonstration of leadership and understanding. I think a good way to approach this is, how do you see what a Fulbrighter is? Like, what is a Fulbrighter? And if you read the history of the Fulbright Awards system, you'll see that Senator Fulbright was hugely passionate about travel. Not travel for 2 weeks in Spain, travel to a country, living there, understanding the culture, working with the people living there, working with, NGOs. This is what it's all about. It's about having an impact on society. It's about, through your work, through your academic work, having a ripple effect on society, both here and in the US. So again, the personal statement it's a tapestry of what your life's all about outside the academic sphere, as I said before. So you could look at it like, what is a Fulbrighter? What are the characteristics of a Fulbrighter?
The application form asks whether I have had a J1 recently, and if so, to attach the corresponding DS 2019 form. I was on a J1 visa about 6 years ago, but no longer have the DS form. Should I tick yes to this question? You can tick yes, but it's fine that you don't have a copy of your DS. A lot of people don't keep copies of their DS. So that's absolutely fine that you do not have a copy of that DS.
When I send a recommender a reminder, does it say that I sent it, or will it just be a generic reminder email?
It will say that you sent it. So you need a letter of invitation that you include in the additional information section. It's great if you can produce that letter of invitation. If you cannot at this time, that is fine. And if you should you get it in the coming weeks or months, please email it to Anthony if you're a scholar, or if you're an FLTA or student, please email it to me.
If you went to the USA recently on holiday, do you need to say that?
No.
No, you don't need to say that, no.
Being on holidays is absolutely fine. Preference
I
is
think
given
is a holiday ESTA. Is that what they have to do for a holiday in the US, an ESTA?
Yes, if you're only going for a week or two on a holiday to the States, you get an ESTA, not a visa. But like if you just go on a holiday to the States, that's fine. We consider it that you have excessive experience in the US, recent experience in the US. If you spend, say, 4 out of the 5 past years living and working in the States, so going on holidays recently to the States is absolutely fine.
And one of our webinar participants has answered that question. Yes, an ESTA. Thank you very much for that. That's really helpful. I think the questions are starting to, oh no, there's more. Is the information contained in the personal statement confidential? Absolutely. Some of the personal statements tell us about their own personal journeys, and it's very, very interesting. It doesn't go beyond the portal, and it doesn't go beyond us. It's absolutely confidential. If you want to discuss about, you know, your, I don't know, your orientation or what you've done in the past, I mean, as long as you don't tell us that you have a criminal record and you spent time in jail, we don't really want to know about that. And if you did, we will find out and you won't get the award.
Actually, Anthony, we've had a few people who do have records or who have had brushes with the law actually receive Fulbrights in the past. And we deal with those cases on a case-by-case basis in line with Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board international policies. Some different rules that Fulbright have are implemented in all 180 countries in which Fulbright is implemented in. If you don't have a letter of invitation yet, but I met with a potential organization last night and they have agreed, but I don't have the letter yet. Can I proceed? Yes, you can proceed. It is fine if you don't have that letter yet. It is good if you have it, but we understand if you cannot. I know there are page limits for some documents, but are there any font size? Another question with font size. No, font size, no, like we don't tell you have to use a certain font size.
So just to reiterate, if you have a criminal record, it's a case-by-case basis. It's not a blanket, no, you won't get the award.
Are standardized test scores required for Irish students? No, they're not, but they may be for the institution. The institution in the US in which you're applying to may require you to sit the US different exams. Other universities will just look at the Irish results you have. It's more and more common for institutions in the States to go test blind and to just look at your Irish results and not look at your US, make use of the US exams.
Is there a word limit on the sponsored award form? It's 1 page, so I mean there's not very much you can put down there. If you go a little bit over, that's okay. But it's a 1-page document, and it must specify who's the sponsor and what you intend to do with the sponsor if you get the award.
Is there any country-specific material that we need to upload if we're Irish citizens and are applying to a master's program? No, there's nothing Irish specific you need if just in terms of if you're applying for a master's in the States. I have a question. Sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
Is the EPA award running this year? It is. It's running for the scholars and the students. And there has been a couple of applications for that already. It's absolutely running this year. Yes, it's running every year.
I have a question for a student application. In the section that asks about personal funds towards your education, is there a minimum that is required, please? No, you can omit that section if you so wish. Again, that's something that's generic on the application form that I'd love to remove if I was able to. For the student warrant, just to confirm, there's no country-specific materials, supplemental materials, or additional documentation required for an Ireland-US applicants in the additional information section on the portal. Please upload your passport there, and if there's anything else you had difficulty trying to submit in the correct location, then please just submit an additional documentation. If you're not sure yet where in that the US institution you've contacted will agree, should you list your other choices and where, there is a section towards the start of the student application in which you can list circa 5 host institutions in the US you're interested in. So please list them in order of preference where you'd like to go. For an MA student application as an artist, how many images should I submit as part of my portfolio? How many you feel you need to submit yourself personally is kind of the best answer to that. You'll know your work better than we will.
Can you outline what university documents are needed for the application, please? Transcripts, etc.
Got a question for me? So where is it there? Sorry,
it's 425.
25. Yes, please shorten them. They should be circa 2 pages each, but kind of 4 pages is kind of pushing it for a student application. We're not super strict on the word length, however, we do want them to be kind of concise if at all possible. Another question, I'm currently enrolled in a master's course for the academic year 22-23, but for some reason the date of enrollment won't let me pick a date beyond 2021. I started in September 2022. Should I leave it out? Please include it and perhaps just leave a note in supplemental documents, just clarifying that. Additional information section is very handy for things like that.
If not successful Health Impact Award, scholar question, would an application then be automatically assessed for the general all discipline scholar award?
Yes, it will.
So if you're not successful with the Health Impact Award, it automatically gets considered for the all scholar award. Do you want name, research project, and page numbers in header footer? If you feel comfortable putting that on there, that's okay. But once you upload it, we know it's from you. Put your name on the first page, maybe.
A student question, I've included citations in my study plan. Should I include the bibliography and supplemental material or at the end of the study plan? Either or, that's your own call, that's fine.
Sorry, there's a question there, Paula. They want to know what university documents do they need to upload?
Well, if you have a letter of affiliation, that's great. As previously discussed, if you have transcripts, if you're applying for a student or an FLTA award, please include transcripts. And then you may have lecturers or colleagues in the university who are your referees, so they can submit things for you yourself.
How long should a student's bibliography be?
You don't have to include one. Usually it's only circa a page if you so wish. Do I select general student award if I'm applying for a sponsored award and it's not available from the drop-down options? Yeah, please just submit an all discipline award, but please drop myself an email or Anthony an email, depending if you're a student or a scholar, just to outline that, and we'll make sure you're included for the sponsored award. I have sat the GRE, even though it's not a requirement. It is seen as a bonus for a master's program. However, I'm planning on restating it because my results were very average. Is it better to still submit my GRE results as part of my Fulbright application? Please submit it if you have them. Can you name the university you wish to go to in your personal statement? Yes, you can. The online form says not to do so, but it's not mentioned in the Irish guidelines. We want you to list where you want to go in the United States. So please do list where you want to go in the US.
Are footnotes required in the research proposal?
No, but people normally do include them. It seems to be the done thing. How many FLTA spaces are available? Up to 10. So we hope we'll be sending 10 FLTAs to the United States next year. So we currently have 10. And 10 is the largest amount we've ever sent to the United States as FLTA. So Ganari Lash Leather Iritis. For the Irish Student Awards, with regards to previous professional experience, should this include jobs in relation to your research area only? No, you can include other things as well, especially if it pertains to leadership and kind of the greater good, which Fulbright is all about. Hi there, I have a question for a student application. In the section that asks about personal funds towards your education, is there minimum amount required? No, there is not a minimum amount that is required. How many student awards do you support? Last year, we sent 40 student scholars FLTAs to the United States, and it does vary year on year. We will support people who come top of the student and the scholars. So say if people are going for 12 months as opposed to just 3 months or 2 weeks for a tech impact, we can fund less people. So it kind of varies and fluctuates year on year based on budgets and numerous different things. So we actually don't know how many people will be sending to the United States during the academic year 23-24.
How many EPA student awards are usually given?
That varies massively year on year. Normally we have 1 or 2 per sponsored award, but again, it really does vary on a lot of different things. What is generally done for the research proposal for a master's program? So people would generally talk about what they hope to do and how that will impact their future careers.
I think the questions have dried up.
Well, we still have half an hour, so I think a few are still popping up for me, Anthony. Do I have to access practical issues in the application where I say the average cost of living? No, you don't. You don't have to list any of that, or where you plan to stay in the States. You don't. It's kind of more so about the research and about you as a person, as in term, then more so than where you're going to live or that.
I have applied for the Fulbright before as a PhD. I am not a postdoc. Do you require all my application content again, or should I just upload a modified CV and research proposal?
So in regards to that question, if you're reapplying, I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. If anyone should apply for this round of Fulbright and be unsuccessful, you can reapply, but please seek feedback from myself or Anthony, depending if you're an FLTA student or scholar. You need to upload everything again. It all needs to be the same brand new application. If you were happy enough with your application from last time, I hope you've implemented whatever feedback you sought from the Commission and implement that in your application. For an Irish student researcher, what is the difference between proposed and applied US institutions? So the applied US institutions, I suppose, are the institutions you've actually applied for, and proposed are ones that you were just suggesting. There's not a huge difference. I know the university I wish to go to and have a letter of invitation from them, and therefore won't necessarily be applying to the university. Use your best judgment call, list all the institutions you are interested in or you may apply to.
This is for Fulbright Scholar. Additional info section says something about bibliography. What does that mean?
I imagine, Anthony, as you're working with scholars, it pertains to the bibliography of all the different publications they have. A lot of the scholars would have a lot of publications.
So whatever publications you've written on, put that in the bibliography section. On the form, you're asked the date on which you apply to universities. If you haven't yet completed your applications, can you set the date to a future date, i.e. November, December? Yes, you can do that. Is that correct?
Yes, you can do that. What are your last reminders and most common mistakes made in applications for students? That is a great question. I think sometimes people forget to remind their reminders, to remind the referees to submit for them. As well, make sure you answer all the questions. So make sure, and in terms for FLTAs as well, make sure you answer the research proposal, the objective statement, and your personal essay as well. Remember, Fulbright is about people. It is about you as a person. So that personal statement should be very, very personal. I think more people can consider sponsored awards. If you think you may fit into a sponsored award, go for it, apply for that sponsored award. I think they're kind of my top tips. If one of my recommenders doesn't complete the recommendation on time, is there anything I can do? I have written a letter of recommendation from this. I've written letter of recommendation from this person, will uploading it suffice? No, the recommendations must be anonymous. So you cannot upload it for that person. You can send them a reminder though, if you so wish. Just to be clear, do students need to upload any kind of bibliography? No, you do not have to, and the same applies for the FLTAs. Can you clarify what needs to be submitted as a hard copy? Is it the full application? No. In previous years' applications, we needed to require 2 copies of hard copies of your application. We no longer require that. If you're an artist who's applying for a Fulbright, if you so wish, you can submit hard copies if it's relevant, copies of portfolio or whatever, but that's only if it's relevant and you think it's relevant. Otherwise, just submit it via the online portal. There's no need for hard copies anymore as per our new guidelines. Can you clarify the bibliography questions? I was going to include references that support the research proposal. I have all my publications in my CV. There's no point in regurgitating anything. So if you have something mentioned in your CV already, or if it's already mentioned in your personal statement, your CV is not just supposed to be just a regurgitation of what's already in another part of your application. So try not to make it kind of identical. And we're running out of questions here, so please get them in, and we're kind of here to help. My plan is for professional development rather than teaching or research. So do I include a bibliography of sources relevant to my professional development project proposal or to my own publications? That's also kind of your own call. Usually it would pertain to your own personal publications if you're a scholar. I'm applying for the FLTA Irish Language Award. Should I write, sorry, Anthony, you just dismissed that question. Any chance,
sorry.
Do you know what, if you don't mind, do you mind not dismissing the questions? Because I'm just struggling to keep up as you dismiss them.
Sorry, I thought that was the answer.
Great, I'm delighted. If that person could kind of resubmit that FLTA question, that'd be fantastic. If I want to do a master's, am I a researcher or a student? So the general difference between a student or a scholar is that the scholars—
It's back again, sorry, it's back again.
Thank
the
you,
FLTA one. Sorry about
so
that.
I'll just finish the question I was addressing there, Anthony, if you don't mind. If I want to do a master's, am I a researcher as a student? You are a student. So generally speaking, students are going to do masters or PhDs in the States, or part of a PhD in the States. Oh, we have that FLTA question again. Great. I'm applying for an FLTA award. Should we write the text in the application in English or in Irish? Please write it in English, purely because our colleagues in the US have to be able to read it. So everything has to be as per for the FLTA applications. Another question here, just to clarify, what should we select if applying for a sponsored award, e.g. General Student Award, Fulbright Schumann? And if you're applying for a Schumann Award, you're not applying through the Irish Commission. If you're applying for Schumann Awards, you're applying to our colleagues in the Belgium Luxembourg Commission. So if we're selected for applying for sponsored award, please select that sponsored award. So if you're applying for a TAGISC award or an EPA award, please select that in your drop down. But just to repeat, if you're applying for one of those Schumann awards, be it a scholar or a student, please contact our colleagues in the Belgian Commission and also let us know.
And just regarding, sorry for interrupting you there, just regarding that previous question, on our website, on the Fulbright website, it states if it's scholars or students, what the sponsored awards are. They're underneath the all discipline. So if you don't apply for an all discipline, you must choose what sponsored award you're going for. Sorry about that.
Great. If there's a maximum page limit for student award research plan or for visiting student researchers, we're kind of flexible. We generally say 2 pages. You should be as concise as possible. So please do so. The sponsored award I'm applying for is not available in the drop down box. So in that case, what I should select, in that case, please just select all disciplines and let myself or Anthony know what exact award you are applying for.
Yeah, if you could text us now on the Zoom what sponsored awards you're applying for, that doesn't come down the drop down menu, because that's makes no sense.
What is the difference between a doctorate and a PhD researcher? I'm currently carrying out my PhD. There is a difference between, if you're going to the States, say for an entire PhD, if you're moving to Kansas and you're starting a 4-year PhD, we will fund you for the first year of that PhD. Generally, the visiting student researchers are, say, undertaking a PhD here in Ireland and are going to the States to do between 4 months and 12 months of their PhDs. Please also note, as a student awardee, you can go to the States between 4 and 12 months. If you're a scholar, you can go between 3 and 12 months. bar with the exception of tech impact. So the general LLM to Notre Dame does not appear in the drop down. That's fine. And if you can just select the LLM on human rights in the same university, please select that for that specific issue. Because all of those Notre Dame ones will be considered and will be reviewed by Notre Dame as well, the sponsor. Please note we actually have several LLM options as well, which is really exciting and really, really great. Just in terms of diversity then, it's a bit late now, but please think outside the box, outside of just the two coasts. It's supposed to be a meaningful exchange between people in the United States and people of Ireland. My area is law, but I'm applying to the EPA award as my PhD addresses EPA research aims. Will experts in law review my application along with EPA representatives, or will be the EPA alone? Both. So the sponsors always have a say in who gets selected for their sponsored award. And also if it's in law, we will have people in law review your application as well. And also we strive to get people who are like experts in your particular area of law to review. We have an FLTA question again. So Íntoch an Rudé, a main question year and Glór FLTA Echo. For Irish terms, places, association materials, etc., that don't have any English version, use the Irish name only as their official title. Would it be okay to include a translation in between brackets to satisfy the English necessary for US reviewers? Yes, you can, but for example, Gaelin, just put in Gaelin. There's no need to try and translate Gaelin or Conor Nagweg or any of those. Great question though, but I'd love if you could do it fád as Gaelga, but Rochor, Tushkur Clor, de Quid, Realtas and Starting to Scaldo without Merla. So fantastic to see such a great mix of students, scholars, and FLTAs. If you have any more questions, we're running out of time, but we'd love to see a few more questions.
23 hours and 19 minutes to the deadline.
And look, if you can submit it earlier on in the day, that's better, just in case you have any technical issues or whatnot. It's obviously always better to try and submit. You know, don't just leave it until 15:59. You'd be better off kind of just trying to submit it a little bit earlier on.
Lastminute.com does not work with Fulbright, unfortunately, so stay away from the lastminute.com scenarios.
And obviously we will be available tomorrow for questions, but we might be inundated as in previous years as well. So I don't know if we're going to have any more questions, Anthony.
I doubt it.
Give them another minute, maybe. I don't know. We're delighted that you're all attended. Oh, we have another one. Timeline for interviews. So what happens is Anthony and I will be initially checking all your applications for eligibility and for completeness, and then it's sent out to experts in your field. And if we've no one on our reviewer list who is an expert in your field, we will try and find experts in your field from abroad who won't know you, because Ireland's such a small place. Then we ask our reviewers to complete their reviews just before Christmas. Then in January, mid to late January, early February, some of you will be successful and be called to interviews, and then we need to bring it to our awards committee and the Fulbright Commission Board and the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, and you'll be told hopefully early March if you've been successful or not. And then in terms of the FLTAs, we try and tell you as soon as we can. It might be May where exactly in the United States you're going, because the FLTAs are different in the sense of we place you in the United States. So host institutions in the States apply to get an Irish language FLTA, and we take in consideration where you want to go, but also if a certain institution, a sponsor, a US institution wants someone with Munster Irish, wants someone to play hurling, we kind of try and match your needs and their needs.
Irish scholars professionals are required to include a statement regarding their understanding of the Fulbright program as part of their application. How much detail on this? Basically explain in a page. You should be able to explain in a page how you see the Fulbright program and how you feel part of the Fulbright program should you get the award. You don't have to go into too much detail. Make it as concise and as readable and as clear as possible, because these reviewers are going to be looking at hundreds and hundreds of these, and the one that stands out in terms of how you see yourself as a Fulbrighter might be the one that gets the award. Our interviews like to be in person. Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, I was just going to answer the same question. Our interviews like to be in person this year. Our Diversity and Inclusion Committee have decided that the interviews should remain online. So you'll be interviewed virtually in January or in February. that someone says they're unable to upload documents on the MacBook when it says choose file. Is this normal or specific to my Mac? Can I email the unuploadable documents? You should only email myself and Anthony if it's kind of worst case scenario. You should be able to upload absolutely everything. If it's not working in your MacBook, please just use a laptop or another device.
Use it might be the browser in the Mac. You need to use a desktop that has Google Chrome, Mozilla. It might be the whatever browser you're using. Is this ISO part of the personal statement? I don't understand what ISO means.
I don't know what ISO means either. So if that person can clarify, that would be fantastic. So 4 p.m. Irish time tomorrow is obviously the deadline. So we have a little bit more time for questions, should anyone have any questions.
And remember, tomorrow, myself and Paula will be opening our email boxes to hundreds and hundreds of queries and problems. So we're not going to be able to get back to everybody before 4 o'clock because we're going to be busy with other stuff as well. So this is the last chance saloon for more questions on tomorrow's application deadline.
Is there a difference between the personal statement and the statement on what it means to be a Fulbrighter? So you have your personal statement, which is kind of what it means to be a Fulbrighter. And then we also have the research statements. They're very different things. The personal statement is very much so about you as a person. So the ISO apparently relates to the understanding of the Fulbright program. And you should demonstrate that you have a deep, meaningful understanding of what the Fulbright program is in your application. That is not just about research, it is really about people and a people-to-people exchange.
Just to reiterate, everybody has an academic proposal. Everybody's going to have that, and that's going to be reviewed by all the reviewers. Everybody's going to have a personal statement. What's going to make the difference is what's different about your personal statement to the other person's statements. What have you done that's interesting? What have you done that has had an impact on society or on other people? So think about that and put it into a succinct, concise document that's easily readable and has an impact and is, I'm going to use the word again, compelling. It compels the reader, the reviewer, to say, wow, this person's different. This person has achieved something unique.
For the writing plan, under the study plan part of the application, it says it's for doctoral candidates for some master's programs. How do we know if our master's is applicable to this? Thank you. So if your master's pertains to, say, creative writing, that's kind of for you. I'm also submitting my application for the master's program and ask how, if I'm applying for any scholarships. I've indicated I'm applying for the Fulbright Award, but I do not have an estimate of the award amount. Is there any way to indicate how much the award amount might be? Thank you. Well, for a start, just in relation to anything about your application to a host institution, they're the best people to answer that question. We're here to advise more so on your Fulbright application. It's really hard to predict, so just say to be determined, because it's really hard to predict that. It is based on where you're going and for how long you're going there for. It's great to see so many awards, so many award queries here. I wish to apply for a sponsored award that is not available in the drop down for student. That's, yeah, please. I think some of these are coming back up for me. I don't think I have any new ones.
Any more questions? I think they might be repeating themselves. I can't see any questions in the chat box.
I see a new scholar question.
One. Yeah. Sabbatical pay is agreed of success. So what constitutes evidence of this? Is a pay slip okay? Yeah, I've had this issue a few times. Pay slips are not acceptable. You need to get a letter from your HR in your institution stating that during the time of your Fulbright Award in the States that you'll be getting paid. If you want to submit a pay slip just for my reading of it, so I can multiply it out by the 8 months or 10 months you're going to be in the United States. So if you want to send a pay slip, that's okay. But for the uploading, if you're successful, you need to upload a HR pay document from your HR pay person to say Professor A receives 80,000 euros, whatever it is. And this is how much he or she will be getting paid over the period of 10 months. What do you think, Paula?
Oh, we have a second one, another one come in. Can this second letter go after approval, applying for a short tech award? Can the second letter, are you saying, I think this person is saying that they're applying for a tech impact award, I imagine, and that they would need a second letter of invitation because they plan to go to 1 or 2 places. To be fair though, tech impacts, because they're so short, they're between 2 weeks and 3 months, you might struggle to visit more than one place on a short tech impact award.
Yes, the tech impact is 2 months to 3 months, so you're not going to be having time to go elsewhere. So I would suggest that you stick to the original institution.
And I'd like to thank Aoife Drinan for organising today's webinar and all the other webinars that she's organised, and they're all up on YouTube, which is fantastic. So they're a great resource. There's another student question that's just come in. If I receive my formal invitation letter after the deadline, should I forward it by email? Yes, if you're a student, please email me your formal invitation letter or email it to Anthony for your scholar if it comes in after the deadline, and we will add it to your application for the reviewers and for the interviewers.
My line manager has approved valuable pay, but this has yet to go through HR, notoriously slow. I have a rough idea of what institution you're affiliated to because I've had a similar scenario with some other scholars. I would send a letter, and once you have something in writing, it's better than nothing, and then just wait for the notoriously slow HR to get you the letter stating that you're earning this amount and you'll be earning that amount in the United States. I want to thank everybody for joining this webinar today. It's been inundated, and it's been very interesting for me and for Paula, and it's been a great mix of questions and people. And I want to thank Aoife as well for organizing this, and I want to thank Paula, and I also want to apologize to Paula. Disappearing one of those messages, my trigger happy mouse hand was it pressed the wrong one. So thank you for all the questions. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to my colleagues, and we wish you all the best of luck. It's a great journey from application to award, and it's a wonderful experience. So that's all I'll say on it, and Paul will have the closing statements.
Well, that's it. Thanks a million, Anthony, and I look forward to reading on your application. Slán.